Welcome guys to ProducerPod UK. We have today DJ Double with us. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I'm excited to interview you because I've been following your career and your journey, and I think you're doing really great.
Thank you very much.
Considering that you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, I just wanted to the audience to get to know you more, and yeah.
I think it's going to be fun being on this side of the camera.
Isn't it?
I've not done this before. I've not been interviewed.
Oh, this is the first time.
First time someone's interviewed me, yeah.
Wow. So how you feeling?
Good. I'm excited for it.
Feeling like a star.
Well, not quite, but maybe by the end, yeah.
So I wanted to start asking you, like, how did you start DJing?
Okay, so I got into DJing when I was probably around 15. I was just finishing school. Basically what happened was, where I grew up, there wasn't a lot for us to do, like me and my friends. So we would skate in the street and like in the supermarket car park and stuff. Other than that, it was kind of, we were a bit unruly, the group of friends. So what happened was the local youth worker, when youth centers were a thing, the local youth worker actually set up like a program for us to have something to do. So it got us out from being out in the streets in the evening and stuff and causing trouble and all of that, and into the youth center to focus the attention, basically. And what he set up was it was a music program where one part was DJing, getting taught how to DJ. The other part was getting taught how to make music.
Okay.
So all of my friends, there was probably like 10 of us that went in to do this. All of my friends were like, yeah, I want to make songs. Like, we'll learn how to make beats and do this. So there was 9 people straight away that just swamped onto the production thing. And I just saw this one guy by the turntables in the youth center, like, just by himself. And I thought, well, if you lot are doing that, I'm just going to go and see what this guy's doing. And so what happened was, over the course of like, I think it must have been about 10 weeks, me and this guy, every week, we would go. All my friends would go there, and I would just go into this guy, and he would just teach me about the turntables, how to do it. And so I got 10 hours, basically, with this guy who could DJ in the youth center. And I got the bug for it that way. So he taught me the very basics. And then after that, I was like, I quite enjoy this. Like, this could be like a fun hobby. So I got myself a job. Like, I think I was working in a shop first, and I got fired from that. I didn't like the manager. We fell out. So I got fired from that. And then I was working in like a pub kitchen. And basically worked 1 billion hours to save up like £300. My friend's cousin was selling his turntables.
Okay.
And I'd already seen him DJ at a party recently as well. So I knew like, this guy is like, that's the equipment I need, because he's smacked it. Like, so I bought his turntables off him. I think it was like £300. Had him in my bedroom, bought some speakers, and then just started collecting vinyl, because it was before digital DJing. It was vinyl DJing at the time. And so I basically just then, all of my spare time just went into
learning how
practicing and developing the skills that the guy in the youth center had taught me, and just getting better basically in the bedroom. So
how long did it take you, like, to?
Oh, I mean, I would come back from school, and that's all I would do. So if I'm getting in at like 4 p.m. until my dinner's ready, that's all I was doing. So like probably 3-4 hours a day.
So you was putting
constantly,
hours
and it was because I loved the music as well. So I was just playing music that I really liked and learning how to mix it, learning how to scratch and beat juggle and doing all these cool tricks. I mean, I'm still learning today. I haven't peaked yet. Do you know what I mean? I haven't got all the skill set now. So I'd say it was like a constant learning thing. But to get to a point where I was proficient enough to do it in public probably took like 2, maybe 3 years of almost daily practice, I'd say.
So how, like, what was your first, like, the first time, like, you DJ, like, in public?
That was like a college party.
Okay.
So I had a friend of mine as well. So my friend the guy I bought the decks off, his cousin was my friend. That was the connection there. And he also bought a pair. And so we basically just used to meet up at each other's house, swap records as well, and just try and practice. And we built like a little, I guess like an hour-long set of songs and what worked with what and how we could mix it into the next one. And then he was the year above me in school, so he was in college now at this point. They had an end-of-year party, and because he was the DJ for the year, he was like, come, we'll do our set, like we'll do the DJ set at the college party. So that was the first one. It was like a sixth form end of year college party, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, you know, you see when DJs are there, you know, doing their thing, how do you introduce the next song? Like, is it about the tempo or the beat, or just by your how you feeling, or
How I choose it,
yeah,
or how I bring it in.
yeah, how you bring it in? Yeah.
It depends really. Like I'm quite OCD with my sets.
Okay.
So for me, everything has to make sense. There's some DJs that could be like, they'll be playing a drill song, and the next song, so drill would be like 70 BPM. The next song, they'll just 100 BPM bashment tune. Do you know what I mean? And they'll just go from there to there with there's no sense between it, but they do it. But with me, there has to be a pattern. So for example, if I'm playing drill and I'm going to go into something different, I'm going to choose something similar to 70 BPM. So I might maybe drop in at like 75 BPM, the US hip hop stuff. And I kind of make it like a fluid journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person that cares about how meticulous that is, because the crowd don't really care if it works or not. But for me, it's like, yeah, I choose a pattern that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a bit weird with it like that. It's kind of
No, you're perfectionist, isn't it?
a perfectionist.
So,
That's it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So I want to know, like, what's behind your name, DjDubl.
It is the most boring story ever. Honestly, I wish there was a story. I wish there was like some crazy story. So my Christian name's Lewis.
Okay.
That's where the L comes from. And starting out the college party days, it was very, very original, DJ L. That was, I don't know, at the time, I didn't realise being a DJ could become being a brand.
Yeah.
So I put no thought into what I could be called. It was just like, well, I don't want to just be DJ Lewis, so I'll be DJ L. Now, what I realised was there was an American guy who was very successful who was called DJ L.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So now I know I can't be DJ L. And I was driving one day. I literally remember where I was. I remember the car I was in. I was driving and I just thought, what about double, but dub L? I don't know where the dub came from. It was just, I was just driving and it was just like, I can't be DJ L, what can I be? What about double, but try and play with it a bit, dub L, dub L. And yeah, okay, I'll do that. Probably the biggest mistake I've ever made in my career, because it's terrible. Like, I get called dub L. Even now, today, people will be like, oh, it's dub L. And it's,
that's what I thought.
but
like,
you said it right. You said it right at the start. You said double. I love that. But
because I heard you saying it. You know, when I was doing my research.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I heard you saying it, so I was like, okay, it's double.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say like dub L.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah, exactly, because I mean, look, it looks like dub L. It's terrible branding.
No.
I'm so far into it now, I can't change it.
So when I was doing my research, also, I saw a phrase that you said saying that you never play music that you don't like.
Yeah. Oh, you have done your research.
Yeah,
I love that.
I did.
Yes.
So why? So basically, like, is it like when you DJing, are you thinking about the crowd, or you thinking about what you like and what it makes sense? Or
it's a mixture.
Okay.
I've always got the crowd in mind. So if I'm in a club, my job is to entertain. They have to stay on the dance floor. Like, that's my purpose, is to make sure everyone has a good night.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been super important to love what I do. So, for example, I remember when I was younger, I did like one wedding, but it was like a what you would think of like a typical wedding, not a fun wedding. It was like they wanted all music, but they want music that's going to please the grandma, and they want music that's going to keep the kids entertained, and the uncles and the bride and groom and everyone in between. So it's like, okay, now I've got to be playing some weird rock music. I've got to be playing cheesy music and all this. 70s stuff. And I don't like that stuff. So even though I got paid well for it, that's one of the worst experiences I've had as a DJ. And I hated it. The pressure of doing someone's wedding when you're not enjoying it as well. So like, that was the first kind of, I don't know, I call it a red flag. That was the first red flag for don't play outside of what you like. The other one was, I I played out in Greece. I did a few seasons in Greece, like summers, playing in the club out there. And there was one year I was playing to like 7 nights a week. I'm playing to probably 1,500 people every night, 1,500 people every night in the club. Amazing party. It was so much fun. And then I realized halfway through the season, I'm not really enjoying it. Okay. And this is around the time that like David Guetta was dominating the charts with all the dance music, with all the R&B artists doing dance music. And what I realized was I'm not having fun. And the reason I'm not having fun anymore is because I'm doing this every night with music I don't like. And I thought, I'm in Greece. I'm being paid pretty well to be here. The sun's shining every day. I'm getting drunk every day, partying. I'm literally no responsibilities. I can wake up whatever time of day I want and just play in the club tonight. But I'm not happy. And so it was like, what can I change? Like, what is the problem here? There's something's wrong. What's the problem? And I realized it's the music. I'm not happy with the music. So I changed and I was like, I'm not playing songs I don't like. Because I'm confident enough that I can hold a dance floor and smack a club still with the songs that I do like. So I changed it. Boom. Best decision I ever made because I have so much fun now. Like, yeah, it's amazing.
You've been touring a lot also. You've been going to, you've been working in Ibiza, Greece, a lot of places internationally and nationally also. How the opportunities came to you?
So the first time I played internationally was Greece. And so it's an island called Kos. It was the same place. Basically, I went on holiday once to the island and I took my laptop with me. My laptop comes everywhere with me. It goes everywhere. So I took my laptop with me just on the holiday. And one night while I was out there, and bear in mind, so I'd never played abroad before. It was halfway through the holiday and I went up to a bar owner and I was drunk basically. And I just got arrogant. I just said to him, I was like, look, if you let me DJ tomorrow night, I'll do it for free. It will be the best DJ set you've ever had and your bar will be packed. It was such an arrogant thing to say, but I was drunk at the time. And I just wanted to DJ abroad because at that point it was kind of like, I wanted to be like, yeah, I've done DJing abroad, and all of this. And the bar owner, I guess he probably looked at it as in, okay, well, this guy said he'll come and do it for free. So tomorrow night, I don't have to pay my DJ. Like, this guy can just come and do it. Yeah, cool. Why not? And so I did it. I did a good job. The bar was absolutely packed. And at the end of the night, the guy was over the moon. He was like, this was amazing. While I was doing the set, the owner of the biggest club on the island happened to walk down. It was like in a bar street. You know, in resorts, you have like bar streets where there's all the different bars everywhere. The owner of the club walked down, and I guess he must have heard a different style of DJing because, you know, in these resorts, like,
it's kind of like
you get all of exactly. You get all of the popular music for that summer, and there might be like 25 tunes, and they are basically the ones you're guaranteed to hear. Every single bar you will hear them, no matter where. Like, they're all the biggest tunes. But I'd come with a fresh pair of ears halfway through the summer with other music that was also popping. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of brought just a fresh set to the island, and I think the club owner heard it, stuck around for a bit, and I think he noticed something different. So when I finished the set, he introduced himself and he was like, tomorrow night, can you please come and do a set at the club? And so I'm excited now. Like, now I've made it. I'm an international DJ now. I've been booked in a club in Greece. Like, I didn't even beg for this job. Like, he's asked me. And so, yeah, I did it the night before, and he asked me to do like the first hour of the club. And I ended up doing like the first 2 hours, I think. And then they even paid me for it. I didn't even expect it, but at the end of the night, he gave me like 200 euros or something, or whatever the amount was at the time. And he was like, yeah, thanks very much. That was amazing. And then, so through the rest of the holiday, like, I now had a connection with him. Me and the people I was on holiday with, we would go out partying at the club. So there, by the end of the holiday, he was like, can I take your contact details? I'm going to get in touch with you in the winter and maybe we'll do something next year. And then in the winter, he emailed me and said, we're sorting out our summer. We want you to be the DJ for the entire summer. This was 2008, summer 2008. So he said, we want you to be the DJ. Come out. We'll pay for your flights. Straight away, I'm like, that's it. I've made it. I'm Calvin Harris now. They're paying for my flights. And then he's like, we'll pay for your accommodation. I mean, he said we'll sort the accommodation. As it happened, he had his own like apartment buildings and stuff. So he went into that. And he's like, and we'll give you the fee each night to DJ. And so straight away I'm like, and this was from the beginning of June through to middle of September.
Okay.
And he was like, and that's
like
it. So now this is 7 nights a week, getting this fee. I'm getting flown out. That's more money than I'll be making in the UK.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be in Greece. And I'm now the new Calvin Harris. This is how I'm feeling. Like I'm invincible now. International DJ. So yeah, so that was it. Summer 2008 came around, jumped on my flight and flew to Kos, stayed there the whole summer. And through that, I also was very active on my social media. I think this is probably the early days, the late days of MySpace and the early days of Facebook, where it's now we can start showing off what we're doing to people outside of our immediate network. Yeah. And I was very like on point with my content at that point, showing off the fact that now I'm an international DJ. And it was almost like I guess the phrase fake it till you make it. It was almost that, in a sense that now other people on other islands are starting to pay attention. This DjDubl guy's doing bits. And like the club would book artists and guest DJs. I'm always making sure I'm connecting with them because they're coming out and we're working together and all of that stuff. So suddenly my network is just expanding exponentially. All of these other guys, other DJs that are coming are now aware of me and the other promoters. You know what I mean? So my name's now in the conversation and it kind of just grew from there. Suddenly people are contacting me for other bookings abroad. And yeah, it's I don't want to say spiraled out of control because it never got to the ridiculous levels. But yeah, it kind of just grew from there.
I think it's a great example of like be ready for like any opportunity that comes, you know, and also be forward to show people what you can do. Like
100%.
What happened to you.
I tweeted something recently actually about, I feel a lot of people in the music industry, maybe not just the music industry, maybe just in life, they're afraid to ask for opportunity because, oh, you're begging it. Or like if I ask, that person might say no. And then like that's affected the relationship. Yeah. Well, if they're not giving you the work right now, what's your relationship got to do with it anyway? Like they're not giving you the work. So just ask. So many opportunities in my career have happened because I have been the one to ask. And it's like, I've presented the fact like, this opportunity could be there. This is what I can do for you. Yeah. I'm willing, if you're willing to let me try. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, people have turned around and been like, I didn't think about that. That's a good shout. Yeah, you got the job. Boom. Yeah. And it's because, and this happens so often as well. Like I ask people for it. There's been knockbacks, of course. Just recently, I reached out to someone I know in the industry, part of a major label for certain work. I reached out to them. And they turn around, they're like, well, at the moment, like, there's nothing we can do, but let's keep talking. We'll keep the conversation going, and when something comes up, like, don't be afraid to ask for things.
Don't be afraid because that's how even I started this podcast. You have to ask.
You got to. Create your own opportunities. It's not just going to fall into your lap.
Create your own opportunities, that's it, Okay. So, what was the first major artist that you DJ for?
The first major act,
because I saw that you've been DJing also or touring with Steph London, Wizkid, a lot of artists, Damian Marley.
Yeah, so there's different factions to what I do as DjDubl. So like there's the interview stuff where a lot of the major artists, that's where I cross paths with them. Then there's obviously the club shows. There's also the artist tours. So the club shows are where I've had a majority, actually no, the interviews are where I've had a majority of my interactions with the huge artists. The club shows also, because like the Steph London one, for example, I was booked to DJ at a certain club. So I've been booked to do my set. At the same time, she's been booked to do her performance. So I'm doing mine, and then after me, she does hers. That's so in that aspect, like I was never DJing for her. She's got Smasher Elliott is his name. Her tour DJ will come on after me and do their set. So that the club shows is very much like I get booked to do what I do in a club, and then the artists just happen to be on the same night. A lot of them I do now know. So it's like, cool, we just hang out in the club after if I'm staying over, we just all get drunk and whatever, party, etc. The interview stuff, that's where I get a lot more time with the artists. So the Damian Marley one, for example, that wasn't a live show. That was literally, he was in the country and the team reached out and said, can I come and interview? And we sat down Had an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the whole interview, but
Yeah,
it was
I just saw little clips of a little bit of
yeah.
everything, you know.
That was an
Yeah.
amazing conversation, and it also like the whole time I'm sat on the couch next to, first of all, Damian Marley, who is a legend in his own right, but secondly, like this is the son of Bob Marley. Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
this is part of Bob Marley's legacy. Like in my head, I'm sat there like, how did this even? How did I get here? Like this is amazing. So yeah, it was that. But the interviews, yeah, I get a lot more time to meet and get to know the artists. Like I said, I mean, we're having in-depth conversations. And then there's the tours where, for example, I'll get booked to run the music for a specific artist. So, for example, like Harvey from So Solid Crew, me and him met at a show in Bulgaria, and he enjoyed the set that I did. After that, we became quite good friends, and then we did the shows together. He asked me to be his DJ, so we did them. Done a couple for Miss Dynamite as well. Similar situation. We actually met in Kos in Greece.
Wow.
So that I tell you, that opportunity that I created there
Opened
so many doors to relationships with. I mean, I'm talking about people like DJs like Scotty B. Me and him are now very good friends because we DJed together in Kos. He was flown out. DJ Spoonie. I met Westwood a few times, and then I mean, I wouldn't say him and I are friends, but he knows who I am, and that's because of what the shows we did in Kos. Lisa Mafia, Romeo from So Solid Crew. Like there's so I could just sit here and list off names of people that came out, and that was all because of that residency in Kos. So it's crazy. Opened so many doors.
When did you realize that you can do more than DJing? Because you are very versatile. You DJ, you are a presenter, you are an interviewer. Like, when did you realize that your brand could expand more than just DJing?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer, you know. I don't think there's like a specific moment that I could pinpoint, yeah, I could do this. The thing about me when I started, and this is something that I really, if I could go back and make a different decision, I would. When I started DJing, my mentality was, I'm a DJ.
Okay.
I do clubs. Like, I am a hip hop DJ in the club. That's what I do. Like, I'm not a radio guy. Like, I'm not this, I'm not that. And it was like, my mentality there was, if I'm not just focusing on the clubs, then I'm not technically a DJ.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize was actually, yeah, if you manage to spin all these different plates, it creates even more opportunity. And if you do things that they all tie in together. So it was actually like a slow process for me to learn that really DJing in the clubs is just a small part of what I can do. And I can still be a DJ. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have the mindset. I think because I didn't have like a proper mentor ever to open that up for me. I was winging it basically. I was just like, I'm doing clubs, and I was just blagging my way into clubs and getting these jobs. Like, so I think the moment that I realized I could start to do more was a consequence from the club in Kos.
Okay.
I persuaded the club to fly out Rampage from One Extra.
Okay.
And Mike Anthony and Treble T from Rampage flew out, and I met them. And what would happen is when they flew people out, the club owner didn't care. He just wanted to make money. Like, great guy, don't get me wrong. He just wanted a busy club. He just wants profit. That's like, if I tell him, yeah, these guys are going to sell tickets, your club's going to be packed, it's going to be a great night. He's like, okay, well, I don't care if it's a great night. The club's going to be packed. The bar spin's going to be good. The tickets going to be good. Cool. So what would happen was he would pay for everything. He would book everything. These guys would fly out, but he's a businessman. Like, he doesn't want to entertain the people. So it was my job to do the airport runs. I'm going now to pick up anyone who comes out. I'm picking them up. I'm taking them for food and dinner. I'm taking them wherever they want to. If they want to sightsee, cool. Let's jump on the quads. I'll show you around. I'm taking them for dinner the night of the show to make sure they're fed. All paid for by the club, but I am effectively the one showing these guys around. So that gave me the opportunity, like I said earlier, how I met and was able to network with all the people was because of that. I was given the opportunity to have time outside of the club and build relationships and get to know these people. So Mike Anthony and Treble T from Rampage flew out, And yeah, we did the thing. We went for dinner, chatted. We all got along. We went and did the set that night. I warmed up for them before they came on. And one thing I've always been quite proud of myself as a DJ is I'm an incredible warm-up DJ.
Okay.
Because I understand the rules.
That's important, you know.
I understand the rules and the dynamics of the club. I understand that at 10 o'clock when the doors open, I'm not playing bangers at 10:30 when it's only half full. Do you know what I mean? There's someone on at midnight. So I've got 2 hours. I've got to build it up and then pass the baton for them. They're doing the bangers, whoever it is. They're playing the stuff. And I think everyone that I warmed up for appreciated the fact that I deliberately avoided every big song. I'm confident enough in myself to be able to do that. I can entertain an entire room without playing any of the biggest songs.
Okay.
Like, that's how I feel. And so I think, like, so we've had meals together and stuff. We know we like each other on a friend level. Now they've come to the club. And actually, yeah, this guy's got DJ skills. Like, so now they know I'm a good DJ and I haven't burnt all the songs for them. So they can come on and do whatever they want, smack it and all that. So that happened 2 or 3 times through that summer. They would come out and stuff. And then now I get back to England and we stay in touch. And what happened was Mike Anthony became part of a radio station in Harlesden called Bang Radio. It was called Bang Radio at the time. And so before that, sorry, I was in touch with them and he said, because they were still on 1Xtra, he actually said to me, he was like, you should come to 1Xtra a couple of times when we're on the doing our show. Just come and have a look, like, see what it's like on radio, because I've never done radio at this point. So I met up with them in London, went to 1Xtra, literally just sat on a chair while they did the show. It was like I wasn't even in the room, just watching and observing. And I did that a couple of times when they did the show. And then they became a part of Bang Radio. And Mike called me one day, I want you to do a radio show. I've got this new radio station. I want you to be a part of it. Come and do a show. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I'll come and do it. And I've missed a part out. So from a tour that I did in Thailand previously, I had already networked with a radio station there. And I was already doing, excuse me, I was already doing like a pre-recorded radio show for this place in Thailand. So I knew the basics of how to put a radio show together, but I'd never done a live one and never in England. So now I've gone and met Mike and he said, right, yeah, you're going to do this show on this radio station. And then I realized basically, like, from getting put into the radio show and starting to do that every week, and I'm still doing my clubs. And I also was running a studio at the same time. Like, me and my friends had a recording studio that we were doing bits with. I started to realize this DJing thing is multifaceted. It's not just about doing club sets. Like, I can do the club sets. And I saw this from seeing Rampage as well, because like, they're out doing club shows and they're doing carnival and they're doing radio and they're doing all these other bits, and they're still considered DJs. They're still like regarded very highly. Do you know what I mean? But they're just doing all this different stuff. So I think that was the catalyst to me realizing that being a DJ can be more than just about doing clubs. Because now I've got a weekly radio show and building it that way, you know? So yeah, I think that's the moment.
You still doing it?
Not the radio show, no.
Okay.
I moved about quite a bit. So I used to actually drive to Harlesden from Brighton to do a weekly radio show. Wow. On some days, that would take me like 3 hours. And you know, like we were talking off camera about the traffic in London. So I would do that, do a three-hour journey to do a 3-hour show. And then by the time I finish the show, traffic's gone. So it's like hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours back. Yeah. But as I moved, I live in Kent now. So when I first moved to Kent, I did the thing. But Kent to northwest London, that's a big distance for a weekly show. So I actually migrated my content away from radio to solely just being on YouTube. And then I kind of just worked to my own schedule from there. But yeah, I really enjoyed radio. But
yeah, I want to get there because you've been, when I was doing my research also, I saw that you was working in Eminem's radio station also.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
that's right.
Is that after all that happened?
Yes, so that's an interesting one. I love that you found all this stuff out. Yeah, so the thing about Eminem's radio show, so it's a station called Shade 45, based in New York. It's on a network called Sirius XM, which is like a subscription-based digital radio across America. Millions of listeners. But on Sirius XM, So Sirius XM, you could consider it like a radio version of having Sky.
Okay, cool.
So on Sky, you have all of these different channels. Sirius XM, you've got loads of different radio stations, from Latin ones to pop ones to house ones to hip hop ones, R&B, you know. And Shade 45 is one of the channels, one of the stations on Sirius. So that came about because I did a documentary for my YouTube channel in New York. So the premise was, this was before UK rap was like as popular as it was. There was a small handful. J Hus was only just getting started. It was that era. And I just came up with an idea that I pitched to my friend. I was like, should we go to New York and see what they think about UK rap? Because anytime I spoke to an American, I'd say, what do you think of, like, who do you know from England? They're like, Tiny Temper.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, that's good. But I feel like Tiny Temper's not a good representation of what's happening or what was happening at the time in UK rap. So literally just one day, and Stormzy, like, you know, J Hus and Stormzy were just getting out the gates now at this time. And yeah, so I just said to my friend, DJ Stylus from Manchester, I just said to him, like, should we go to America and see what they think of UK rap? Like, we can just make a documentary. And he was like, yeah, I'm with it. Let's go. So we booked the flights, booked the hotel for I think we did like a 10-day stay. And leading up to it, I reached out to a bunch of people that I knew in America. I knew a guy called Brian Gaffey, who was like a radio plugger for Def Jam. I reached out to him, and I'd had a relationship with him from, he came to England about 5 or 6 years beforehand, and a mutual friend introduced me to him. So we already knew each other. So it was easy to connect with him. And there was various other different people. There was someone on Hot 97 that I reached out to as well. DJ Drewski is his name. And there was, I thought, you know what, we're going to be in New York. I think Who Kid would be a great guy, because he actually was one of the first American DJs I'm aware of that really messed with UK rap before he needed to. He was doing mixtapes with Skepta. He did I think he did one with Getz. He did one, I'm pretty sure, with Giggs. He did one with Lady Leisha. He did one with, who else now? I can't remember, but Who Kid, like, he was the mixtape DJ from New York, and he had already dipped into the UK scene. So I already knew that he fucked with UK music. So I found out who his manager was and reached out to him, and basically I pitched it to him. I was like, we're coming out and we're doing a documentary on UK rap. So I managed to arrange the interview with Who Kid as well. And then, yeah, so we flew to New York, did the whole documentary, absolutely winged it, by the way. And we had no, other than the people we knew we were meeting, there was no plan. There was no like storyboard, or there was no, okay, we're going to do this part, then that part. It was like, let's film everything and see what happens. There's another guy, DJ Latin Prince, who lives in New York, who was like, he gave us the hood pass for certain, we went to Marcy in Brooklyn, where Jay-Z grew up. And we're there with like expensive cameras doing shots and stuff. And it was because LP, like Latin Prince, LP, took us there. And he's like one of the guys in New York, do you know what I mean? So like we were cool with him. And we also went to, I can't remember the name of the actual building, but it's in Queensbridge where Nas grew up. So we went and saw the actual block where Nas grew and stuff, you know. And again, because we were with LP, like it was like two white boys in these areas in New York with expensive cameras filming stuff, like, but we were able to do it because LP took us there. And we just winged the whole thing. But what happened was, during the time when we were playing the music, so the part of the documentary, we would go and like meet with Who Kid, and I was playing him songs. Like, what do you think of this song? What do you think of that? But I also decided for my own channel, I'm going to do an interview with Who Kid. So at the same time, we got the bits we needed for the documentary, and then I did an interview with Who Kid for my channel. At the end of it, because I'd shown him the UK stuff, he basically said, he was like, you should do this for me on my radio show, because he has a big show on Shade 45. You should do this for me. Like, how do you feel about doing this every week? And I was like, well, it's a bit of a long flight, but, you know, I'm with it. And he was like, no. So, I mean, like, you pre-record and send me the stuff. So what we did was, every single week, I would put together 2 songs, and Stylist was part of this as well. we put together 2 songs that were like the hottest UK rap records, and I put it in like a little segment. I got like a proper sweeper done, an intro and everything, and we presented it, introduced the songs, and let the songs play. So it was about a 15-minute segment each week, and I sent that to Who Kid, and yeah, every Saturday and Sunday, that went out on Shade 45. So going out to like 6 million listeners, I think.
So in 2019, I saw that you shifted your career like to focus more on your own radio. I mean, on your own YouTube channel, DjDubl TV.
Yep.
How did that happen? Like,
It's crazy you say it's 2019 actually, because it feels like it was so much before that, but maybe it wasn't. So I kind of decided when I'd had enough with radio, because I was still on the same station that I mentioned before. I kind of had tried to progress from that station from Bang Radio,
yeah.
which had become, at this point it had changed hands, new owners, and become it's called the Beat London now. I had tried several times to kind of ascend from that into commercial radio or national radio, so like One Extra or Kiss or Capital Extra. I tried. My whole goal there was to get into those stations. It didn't work out for me. You know, I'd never got into those stations as a presenter, and I kind of decided that I think my radio journey came to an end. I didn't want to stay on community radio. I'd moved house, so traveling to Harlesden was just long, and I kind of lost the love for it, for doing live radio. But through my time on the radio, I'd kind of I sort of accidentally fell into interviewing. It just happened. Like it just became a thing that I started to do, and then it just snowballed, and now I'm interviewing some of the biggest artists in the world. And so what I did quite early, while I was interviewing for the radio station for my own show, I decided to start filming the interviews and also putting them on my YouTube channel. Not with any intent, but just to have, okay, it's going out on air, but I want somewhere for these conversations to live forever as well, rather than just be on the radio. And so it actually started to pick up momentum at the same time as my radio show. So when I decided to stop doing radio, I kind of thought, I don't want to stop presenting. I want to really push the YouTube thing. At this point, the numbers were doing good. Like I was getting like, not in every interview, but a couple of the biggest ones were hitting like 100,000 views, 200,000 views. For me, that's big numbers, given that I am the cameraman, the researcher, the presenter, the editor, the director. I do everything for the channel. So some of these interviews are getting 100,000, 200,000 views. I'm like, well, what I do here has legs. Like it can really go. So when I decided to leave the radio, I was like, it's time to really focus on the YouTube channel. And it was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop doing the stuff for the radio platform. Everything was left respectfully. You know, I have a great relationship with the guys that run it, but it was like, my time here's, you know, it kind of ran its course, and I got what I needed out of it. Priceless experience as well. Anyone that wants to go that path, I'd recommend doing radio, like community radio and stuff. I learned so much. But it just became time to just do my own platform and having the freedom to do stuff unrestricted as well. I'd gone from having to have very concise, straight to the point, clean conversations where we can't talk freely about any topic whatsoever, that then has to be edited for a radio show. Well, now I can sit and chat for 90 minutes with an artist about anything that comes up, because my YouTube channel's not regulated, like it's literally anything. So it was very freeing as well. But that was why it was to do with my time at radio finishing, but I wanted to push the interview side of things a lot more.
I saw that you interview Pop Smoke, K Camp, Baby. So how was the experience like with Pop Smoke?
How it came about, or?
Yeah, how it came about, and how was like the experience, even to talk to him.
Yeah.
You know, knowing that, you know, he's not
it's
anymore. So
because of the interviews I've done in the past, I have a good reputation kind of in my field as, like, you know, if you're doing a DjDubl interview, this is going to be a great conversation. Like 9.5 times out of 10, we're going to have a great conversation in this interview. And I've always I've always made a point, like you have as well, which I'm very impressed with. I do my research on the artists. I will watch as many of their interviews as possible. I will read everything I possibly can about them. If they're dropping an album, I'm picking apart all of their lyrics. I will know more about them than they do sometimes, you know what I mean? And so I always have something in my interviews where I drop like a gem on them. So I'll ask, for example, I asked Miss Banks once about her first freestyle, which was on a Diced Pineapples instrumental by Drake. She was shocked that I even knew that. She's like, how did you even know that? She's like, when you have those moments with artists, suddenly they know what you're talking about. They know you're invested in them. You get so much more content. By having this tactic with all of my interviews and by having that much research into the interviews, it's been able to build up this reputation that I have, that it's good to have an interview with me. So when Pop Smoke came over, like the team at the label reached out and they were like, look, I was already aware of Pop Smoke because I was onto his music when it started moving anyway from the club stuff that I was doing. And the label reached out and they were like, we've got this guy coming over, welcome to the party, he's a big tune. Like, think Dior at the time was just getting momentum. Meet the Woo, the mixtape was already out. Meet the Woo 2 was about to drop. That was the point of him doing the press run. He had a show booked in London as well. And the label reached out and they were like, we'd love for you to come and do Pop Smoke interview. And I'm like, yeah, sick. Like, I'm liking what he's doing anyway. Let's do it. He wasn't the artist that he is now. He wasn't the biggest artist at the time. He just had a buzz. And so I got to sit down and do his first ever UK interview, which, at the time, it was great. Like, it's very unexpected how he was. Because of his background and where he's from, and certain things I'd seen and learnt about him, like there's various viral clips of it, like he punched some guy up in a shop and stuff, and the area that he's from, the people he's around, the surroundings when these kind of artists grow up. I expected him to not be very good with a conversation. I expected him to be kind of quite reserved. Do you know what I mean? Like, just not really give too much away. A lot of the time, when artists from his background, a lot of the time, if they're sat in front of a white guy asking them questions, it's the police. Do you know what I mean? And so they become very introverted, and it's difficult sometimes if you're with a stranger to get information out from people. He was the complete opposite. He came in like he was just very relaxed, very, very cool. We had conversation before the cameras went on. Then when we were recording, he just articulated himself great, and he was a great guy. Like, my time with him, he just had a very good aura about him, and like he was very grateful for the position he was in as well. Like, he was just like, he almost fell into this rap thing accidentally, and it just spiraled out of control, like in a good way. And suddenly he's in London, like this guy from a poor area in New York, he's from the ghetto. Now he's in London and he's becoming, and I think he knew he was becoming one of the biggest stars in rap. Like, it's crazy, but he was cool. And then after the interview as well, he even took time to show me like a few like unreleased songs which were coming on the mixtape, you know. So like, it was good, like really good experience. Like, I'm glad I met him, and I'm glad that my interview with him is a part of his legacy. So if you look, like what's happened now is a lot of mini documentaries and stuff that have come out about Pop Smoke. My interviews featured in a majority of them.
Because it's like he didn't do like a lot of interviews like that. So
that same day he did about 8 interviews that day. He ran around the whole of London doing different interviews. I was just fortunate enough to be at the front of the queue. So that's a part. What's an amazing part of my journey now is I can say, I did Pop Smoke's first UK interview. So
I saw your latest interview was with Shep Ivan. Who tragically died. And how did you get that interview also?
This is a really sad part. Seb's a friend of mine. So he's from Brighton. His dad, of course, Chris Eubank, famous, like legendary famous boxer. His older brother, Chris Eubank Jr., another professional boxer. Because we're from Brighton, I met Seb probably about 11 years ago, just on the club scene.
Okay.
I was a Brighton DJ, you know, playing hip hop, and I built a good reputation for myself. So people from Brighton, if I was playing, I was either playing at like the hot spots, or if I was playing, people would know and they would come.
Yeah.
So that's how I met Seb, was just in the clubs. And I guess because I knew who his brother was, I'm a big fan of boxing. I knew obviously who his dad was. I knew his brother through the same circumstances of being in the clubs. And so we just constantly would always see each other out. And there would be times like Seb and I actually also have mutual friends. And so I might be with someone or I might come out of the club, for example, and see like one of the girls that we both knew, chat with her, and then Seb would come up because he would know her as well. And then we would just chat. And so from there, that would happen so often. From there, we became friends. And then he moved out to Abu Dhabi, moved to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, probably about, I want to say about 5 years ago maybe. But we always stayed in touch. We shared various different interests, you know, like especially in music. Like I don't like the term woke, but it's a good way to describe him. He was woke, you know, he was a very conscious man, very spiritual man as well, but he was just aware of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, we had a lot in common. He was an incredible man, like really, really good guy. I interviewed his brother, Chris Jr., probably 4 years ago. I just messaged him and I was like, Chris, I want to do an interview with you because I do a lot of music interviews. I want to branch out. And I love boxing. I box anyway. I love boxing. He's a professional boxer, someone that I know personally. So I was like, this is a good way into getting a boxing interview. So Junior came, or I actually went to his gym and we did that. And then I always said to Seb, like we said for a long time, like we should both do one. But it was always like, when the timing's right, there's no point just doing it for the sake of doing it. And then we'd constantly been speaking, Seb and I, about various things that were happening. This comes back to me saying about him being very conscious. We would talk quite often, either on the phone or through WhatsApp, about all the things that were happening through the pandemic. All of the things that were not just happening through the pandemic in England, but across the world. We were both just had these conversations about there's certain things that aren't right, certain things don't add up. And we actually decided we were going to start a podcast together, addressing these things. For example, like there's a very controversial thing from Lil Nas X relating to the devil and stuff like that. And so one of the conversations we were going to have on the podcast was about like satanic symbolism in music and how that ties in with mainstream music. You know, so just topics that could be controversial, but, you know, or even some that could be considered like conspiracy theories and stuff, like just various different topics, you know. And so to launch the podcast, what I said to him, because I said, like, it might be a bit strange if we just come out of nowhere and just do a 2-hour podcast on these mad topics. So I actually said to him, I was like, let's launch the podcast with a Seb Eubank interview. Let's do it like me talking to you the way I talk to all the other guests, but we'll feed in a couple of extra topics and we'll go a little bit out of the line of the Seb interview and let's put that out as a feeler. And if people sit and watch for 2 hours, let's carry on with the podcast and really go with it. And so, we did it. And we did the interview. We were talking for just over 2 hours. I edited some bits out because there were bits where, you know, because we were friends, we would just repeat certain things and that. And so it comes in just under 2 hours. And then I uploaded it, pushed it out, did all my promo on Instagram and stuff. And I'm absolutely devastated. You know, 3 days afterwards was when I found out that he passed away. So, and it was literally, we had just had the conversation right before. And not only that, that's a sad scenario in itself, but the fact that he was my friend as well, it hit very, very hard. Like it did hit very hard. I think the silver lining about that is I've spoken to several of his family members. They've reached out to me and they've said, like, they're so grateful that that conversation happened.
Wow.
Because we were friends, he was able to just talk to me like we're just cool. We're just chatting about, we're having a bit of banter about certain things. I asked him who would win in a fight against him and his brother. We're just laughing about certain things. And so what you actually have there is a 2-hour window of who Seb really is. Not just, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What's it like with your dad being a professional? But, you know, we have like an insight now, and that's something that will live forever online. And again, like I said, I've had family members of him reach out and be like, we're so grateful that this conversation is here because now we can watch it for 2 hours. Like, it's not just a quick voice note or anything. Like, they can really see, and like, it's amazing. Like, it's a horrible thing, but at the same time, I'm glad that I did it. I'm obviously not glad about what's happened, but I'm just very, very very glad that I have that content there that people can see. Yeah, he was an amazing guy.
Yeah, I'm sure. You seem like very specific about who you interview or who you wanna have like in your show. Like, do you reach out to people or people can reach out to you also? Like, would you give like the opportunity to people to reach out you and
it's
to have an interview?
It's a bit of a mixture.
Okay.
If there's certain artists that I think are sick, and if I find an artist that I'm like, you're gonna blow, like you're gonna do bits, like I love the music and I think it's gonna connect, I'll reach out to them. RD from Brighton is a great example. He released a freestyle 6 a.m. in Brighton, which started to get a lot of attention. And as soon as he did that, I reached out to him and I was like, let's do an interview. You're from Brighton, I'm from Brighton. I want to push the Brighton sound. Let's do it. As it happens, the Body remix then went as viral as it did. RD's career has absolutely blown up. And we haven't connected to do it yet because of how big and how busy he is. It's going to happen, but he's incredibly busy. But that was me reaching out to him. And so that was how when that materializes, that's because I made it. But going back to like, I did an interview with will.i.am, for example. That's not someone who would respond to me if I reached out by DM. He would look at my numbers, and even if he saw the DM, he would look at my numbers and be like, I'm will.i.am, like I don't need to come on this platform. But what happened in there was similar to the Pop Smoke and the Damian Marley situation. He came over, he was promoting something, and someone in the label is like, we need a DjDubl conversation with will.i.am because that is what part of their promo campaign when they put it together. They look at my platform, they say, this is what we need for this artist. So the label, or actually at that point, I think it was someone in was management that reached out and organised that. So it depends really. With the underground or the new artists, generally it's me reaching out to them because it's someone I've discovered. Majority of the time with the big stellar artists, it's someone at their management or label that reaches out.
And what type of content do you also post in your channel? Like, just like music or, I don't know.
Yeah, it's mostly, majority of it is music related. So the channel, if you were to look through all the videos, most of it will be like in-depth interviews. During the pandemic, I started something called, I called it the Sushi Show.
Okay.
And it was songs you should hear immediately. So the acronym is Sushi. And that was basically to cure boredom. There was so much music coming in. I had nowhere to play it out in the clubs. I didn't have a radio show. I didn't have a music podcast. I was like, I'm getting all this music that I love. I started a Spotify playlist and I was like, how do I tell people about this? Every week, I'm just doing a YouTube show and I'm going to tell you about it. And I bought, or actually my sister bought it for my birthday, a green screen that I could hang up in my studio. I already have all the camera stuff and the lights and I set it up and I started doing that. It didn't really take off, so I sort of binned it when I stopped being bored. But it's that kind of content, majority music based. I do like album reviews as well. So I'll just sit and listen for an album and just like reactions basically, like just give my opinion.
I was gonna ask you that, like, how do you survive? the pandemic, like when it comes to like release your mixes and
Yeah.
promote yourself. So that's yeah.
It was a weird one. The pandemic was weird for me because almost overnight I went from being like a DJ in the clubs 5-6 nights a week. I was doing a lot. Presenting and doing interviews, sometimes 2 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And overnight, all of it stopped.
Yeah.
And then suddenly what also happened in my personal life was my son's school closed. So I've now gone from doing all of this like music industry stuff, being the main earner for the household and all of this. But now everything stopped. It was in the first lockdown. Everyone was scared. No one was really linking up. Nothing could happen. So it was weird because now I'm homeschooling my son, having to learn to cook. Do you know what I mean? Like doing all this like homely stuff that I'm not really used to doing because now I'm just at home all the time. So at the start, it was like suddenly just everything had flipped and stopped. I wanted to carry on the interviews, so I started doing Zoom calls with artists, but I didn't like the format of it. So I actually did it differently, and I did it as a different series on my channel. So it wasn't in-depth interviews. It was more just like bantery conversations. Okay. So I just called up artists that I knew. Cash-tastic, or Cash, I should say. Alakai Harley, Joe Grind, FANATIX, who I know you've spoken with.
Even L67 or L67?
LD. Yeah, with LD. Actually, that was a different one. LD, I spoke to him on the phone when he was in jail.
Yeah.
But that was actually back on the interview side. But with the lockdown ones, these are artists. Afro B was another. Artist that I know personally, that I know I could have a bit of banter with. Yeah. Because I know it's lockdown. People want to watch stuff and people are depressed because everything's stopped. So let's have some fun rather than a deep conversation. Let's have some fun. So I brought in stuff like, I would say to them, okay, we'll have a bit of a conversation. What are you doing? Lockdown, what's changed? What's in your fridge? Because half the time they're just on their phone, so they can move about. And so they're going, like, I've got all these artists coming up and showing me what's in their fridge and stuff like that. Because it's like, well, shops are closed or you can't get out the house. So like, what are you going to survive on? And it was kind of more bantery. But again, it didn't really, the only one that, there was two actually that really connected with the audience. One was with Snap Capone, who's got a big online fan base anyway. And Snap's a serious guy. You don't really get him in those kind of settings where it's late. And I think he was just sat like on his bed eating like a pot noodle or something. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't really see that side of him in those settings. And another one was with a good friend of mine, Chucky Online, the presenter. They were the two that really connected, but the rest didn't really get out there that far in terms of numbers. So I kind of binned that off when I realized it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. I stopped that series. But it was just kind of, I have my own studio, so it was just utilizing that to create content, basically, like when I could, in between looking after my son and, do you know what I mean? Like the lockdown life.
Yeah, no.